Good morning, this is your daily devotional from Elim, Sunderland. I love my garden. It's beautiful and full of colour at the moment, and it's amazing. I feel very close to God in my garden. I look around and see the colours and the beauty of the garden, and I'm amazed. It makes me wonder how the garden should have been like in the Garden of Eden, the first garden, until Adam and Eve tainted it with sin when they gave in to temptation. God made that garden perfect, but sin came into the world because Adam and Eve sinned, and so the creation got spoilt and marred. But God had a plan. He knew that was going to happen, and he had a plan, and he made another garden. This one was the Garden of Gethsemane, where the trees and the plants grew that he created. He knew that one day his son would go into that garden and cry and sweat drops of blood in anguish, because he knew he'd have to go through the crucifixion and death on the cross. The cross being from a tree that God had created himself. How wonderful and awesome and gracious of God to provide trees, knowing that one day his son would die on one. But he did it for us. He loved us so much, even though we sinned, he did it for us. That lovely garden in Gethsemane that my husband has been and walked around was marred with sin, the same. But Jesus died. He did as he obeyed God, his Father, and went to the cross. There's another garden, and that was the garden where the tomb was. It's called the garden tomb, where they laid Jesus' body. It was dark and awful that day. We call it Good Friday. But it must have been awful for the people who loved and served Jesus to see their lovely friend, the Son of God, die and be put into a tomb that was dark and empty. Then on Easter Sunday, things changed. The garden suddenly became radiant with light and life, I believe, because the Son of God was risen and brought joy and peace and love. I can imagine going into that garden and everything was so bright and cheerful. God's beauty and his glory was there. What a wonderful place to be on Easter Sunday morning. I'm sure there's going to be another garden in heaven. When the Lord comes back for us, he will return and everything will be made new. All things, it says in the Bible, that all things will be passed away, all things will be made new. And I believe that will be true of the garden. It's going to be so beautiful. If he created the colours in my garden, which I love so much, what's it going to be like when we get there? When everything is perfect and there's no more crying, no more tears, no more sin, no more nettles and ugliness. It's going to be perfect, because we'll be perfect. God's garden will be perfect, and he'll smile on it, and he'll smile on us because we are there with him, what he've always wanted right from the very beginning. I look forward to seeing and being in that garden more than anything else in the world. Can you imagine what it's going to be like? Doesn't it make you feel you want to be there? When I'm out in my garden, I love it, but somehow I long for the garden that's to come. May we all know the peace and the presence of God's love. We might not have a garden outside if we live in a flat or somewhere like that, but we can all look around at God's beauty, the stars, the sky, the blueness of it, and know we are in God's lovely garden. God bless you.